How's it going, YouTube? If you guys can hear us, just write down yes on the chat window. All right, perfect. So, today you guys are in for a special treat. So we have Soya. Now, many of you guys know Soya. He has been a pivotal member of UT. Honestly, I couldn't do it without him, to be honest. And he's helped a lot of traders, like yourself. And now he's going to be sharing his success in real estate with us. So, just a little background about Soya. So, Soya, sorry, I had to mute something in the background there. So Soya, now you guys know his trading style. You guys know how he trades. Now, what a lot of people don't know is Soya actually has about 18 residential and commercial properties. Soya prefers buying commercial properties over residential. And on a goal basis, Soya always tries to acquire about one property per month. Now, his favorite place to vacation is to Japan, and he knows all the best places there. And you guys are going to learn a lot. So, without further ado, I'll let Soya take over, and he'll assist you guys in one of the most, I guess, lucrative businesses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, TJ. Okay, so we'll be starting off on how to find properties in New York City. We'll be beginning with I assume everyone here don't really know the 5 major expenses for that comes with a property when you try to do investment. So the when you buy a property, you would need to know the expense for the insurance, the utility costs, and the real estate taxes. And we'll start with real estate tax because it's usually the bulk of the expense. For real estate tax, it depends on where you live, what the Department of Finance determination of the market value of the property, and what home type or home class it is. Usually in New York City, there are class 1 and class 2 that comprise majority of the market. Class 1 is residentials that are 1, 2, or 3 families. Class 2 is 4 units and up, and it also includes condo units and co-op units. And class 3 is generally commercial or office building, and class 4 is just industrial use. But you guys really don't need to know about class 3 and 4 unless you're interested in investing those type of property. But majority is class 1 and class 2. The 3 major utilities are gas, water, and electric. Or I'm going to pause for a second on the utility cost.
I had one question for you, Soya.
Yeah.
Now let's say you have like a commercial property, but that also has like residential units. Does that qualify as class 2? If
it's considered as class 2.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so how should I put it? The we'll start off with electricity. It's generally on average cost $100 per family per month. Gas, majority of the gas is supplied by either Con Edison or National Grid. It's usually natural gas. For one family on average, it doesn't matter summer or winter, it's collectively on average cost is $125 per month. If I only have data for 3-family because I have a few residentials that are a 3-family unit, it's $250 per month on average. It includes cooking gas and heat. When I say cooking gas and heat, cooking gas is usually the gas that comes out of the stove, and heat is, well, from the radiator. And generally, older homes, like I would say pre 1970s, the gas meter is usually one gas meter for the entire house. So usually the landlord, you have to foot the bill for gas unless the owner spend money to divert or convert the 1 meter into 2 or 3 separate meters, depend on how many units is in that property. To convert the meter, the cost is between 18,000 to 25,000 per meter because you need to hire an insured contractor to help you split the meter up, because Con Edison tells you you have to hire an insured contractor rather than an unlicensed person. And that's why the splitting the meter costs a lot of money. So that's why it depends on the landlord or whether, but then nowadays people prefer to, well, nowadays landlord prefer to have the tenant pay for their gas usage instead of the landlord, bundling up into like a package. But it costs about $250 per month on average for a 3-family house. Oil tends to be more expensive. It's some of the older homes still have oil as their main heat source, but it's easier to just convert it to natural gas, and it's pretty cheap in terms of construction cost to convert it from oil to natural gas. It usually costs between $10,000 to $12,000, and it's better in the long term because in those harsh winter months in New York City, oil could go as high as $600, even $800 per month in those winter seasons. Water utility is issued by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP. The water bill is issued once per quarter. And I will just discuss the average cost per family. It's between $50 to $75 per family per month. So since you're getting a bill every 3 months, it's about $200-ish. I have some statistic of what I have gathered so far on personal experience. It's for one family, it's $80 per month. 2-family is $150 per month, and 3-family is $210 per month. And like I said, you get the bill once every 3 months. Now I will be discussing about insurance. The cheapest insurance you could get in New York City is called a dwelling fire insurance. And it costs about 550 to 600 per year. But majority of the time, it usually costs $1,200 per year for simplicity's sake, since we usually try to find out our profit margin per month. So it's usually $100 or $1,200 for the entire year. All right, we did the expense. So we'll jump into looking for properties. Let me see. One moment. All right. Let's see the youth. So here is where I usually start off for residential property. Usually I use Zillow, but most of the time, since I am currently a real estate agent, I have access to the MLS, which let me see on a more in-depth detail on listings and so on, but I probably won't log on to my MLS this time. I'm just going to use Zillow for now, since everyone has access to Zillow. Like TJ just said in my introduction, I don't really look at residential because there's not like the rental income from residential. It's sometimes most of the time you're breaking even because you have to pay your mortgages, and mortgages is it's gonna take a huge bite out of your rental income until after your mortgage is 15 years later or 30 years later, depends on your loan currently. So usually these are for mostly residential. I use a different site. It's called LoopNet. LoopNet usually have residential, but it also has commercial as well. And it's more detailed because the agent that posts listing on LoopNet, they usually tell us the rental income, they tell us what's the cap rate, but sometimes agents don't want to tell you the cap rate because they want to show that this property is good, and then like you don't need to know the cap rate until like later on when you're about to buy it and they tell you at the last minute. So I usually find out the cap rate before I speak with the agent, or like I rather find the details, all the details before I bother wasting time communicating with the person who's selling. So I already opened two that I have looked at before. So here is a Brooklyn property. It's asking $875,000. It says here low taxes. So how are you gonna find out whether it's really very low taxes? Like if you scroll down, they don't really tell you. Well, they do tell you the taxes here is 2,255 per year, but how can you trust that is the actual number? So I have a website that tells you, let's see, this is called 2689 Fulton Street. For New York City, we have sort of like a database, and this is only for the 5 borough. It doesn't count Long Island or Yonkers or New Jersey. This is a website created by the New York City Planning Department, and they pretty much went full blast on this entire website. So I have here 2689 Fulton Street. Let me just close this for a second. And it'll directly drag you into it like a Google map. So here it says that it's near a train line. I believe this is the J train. And it says, let's see, it says it's a mixed residential and commercial building. It's 1,000 square feet. So to find out the property tax, you use the block and lot number. Here it says the block is 3661 and the lot size is lot number is 37. We will head over to the New York City Finance Department and we use the BBL search, which is the block and lot number, or borough block and lot, sorry. We'll put in Brooklyn. We'll put in what the 3661, I believe, and lot number is 37. On the search, it tells us directly who is the property owner, and we'll use the notice of property value. So what the agent did say was true. The property tax is pretty cheap, and it's pretty cheap in that area too. This is around, okay, yeah, property tax, but usually property tax is around $6,000 in that area. To go into more detail, we have to see whether they have any status. So they don't have a status like if you are like a veteran or enhanced basic star or something to give you a benefit, like a 50% benefit. I know for veteran and for property owner who are age 65 and up and make a certain income below 90,000, I think, you could actually decrease your property tax by 50% for life. So here I see they don't have any benefit at all. So 2255 is indeed the property tax. And that's how you find out the property tax for the property is to find out the block number and the lot number. And then you use the New York City Department of Finance and BBL search. You use the search to find out the individual taxes for each property. This website is pretty convenient since, well, usually I use this mainly to find out the zoning on this property. Here it says the zoning district is C4-4L. If you click into it, it'll tell you a basic description of what C4 is, C4-4 is. And here in this area, it says that the commercial FAR or floor area ratio is 3.4. But this is mainly used for developers or architects who can give you they can explain it a much more detailed fashion. Okay, sorry about this. A little bit. So there are So zoning is pretty important. Zoning, if you have generally a single family home, so you could tell this is Zola. It's a New York City zoning land use map. So this entire borough is just filled with different zoning maps. So you could just click on one of them and it'll highlight all of the zoning district in this entire borough. So if you click on R4, it'll click on it will tap into every single R4 district. Majority is in Queens or Brooklyn. But let's see. I believe around here. Let's see. Trying to use one for example, but since there we go. I believe this is Jamaica. Yes, this is Jamaica State. What I just clicked was a R1 or R2 zoning. It's typically a single family detached home. You could just click on any of the zoning and it will highlight it out. It will give you a basic description of what the zoning district is for. So for R1, it's a district for leafy and low density neighborhood with large single family detached home on spacious lot. When you zoom in, you can see how each of the homes are insanely huge. Like especially this one, my God, what mansion type home. It's a one family house and it has 3,800 square feet.
Is it
And you,
hard to get the zoning changed? Like, let's say
I
you like build it again, and there's like, you can have like a four, I guess like four, resident like zoning, like R4 or something like that. Is it hard to change it from a R1 to like a R4?
I believe it's every quarter. The New York City Planning Board, they meet up and discuss which part of New York City needs to be rezoned. So if there is like a lot of developers saying that this particular zone needs to be rezoned, they usually have to come up to like a vote, a majority vote. But sometime, and I don't want to be pointing fingers, but sometime the developer would give a little bit of money to the people who are in charge of the planning board, and they would change the zoning in favor of the developer. So I believe in this no, it's actually here in Elmhurst area. This area used to be like R like a very low density, like R3 or R4 zoning. But then one particular developer who has like a crap ton of money, he said that can you change, I believe this lot, this particular lot, he said he wanted a commercial zoning and he also want to boost the residential zoning from like a R4 to R8. So he could build his multi-story condo unit there. Um, but yeah, usually the planning board aren't like that, but there are speculation on these type of deals going on under the table, the power broker, so to speak. The New York City zoning is a powerful tool for people who are holding the property long enough for the planning board to change the zoning. So I'm going to give an example of what happened in one particular town. In Brooklyn, I believe it was near the F train, around, I believe around this area here. So usually the entire area was only an R4 zoning. R4 zoning is R4 zoning is typically a 3-family townhouse style, and they're all attached homes. I'll just show a picture of what. Like typically like similar to this, where the homes are all attached and they're usually 3-story high. Typically around that area, the market value for those homes were about 1 million to $1,100,000. But because the zoning went from R4 to R6, R6 allow developer to build 6 to 8 floors, possibly even 10-floor high building if they have air rights. So because of the zoning change, the home value went from 1.1 million to 1.4 to possibly 1.5 million. So that's a 300K jump, or about 30% of your property, because that one factor where the zoning, the residential zoning upgraded itself. I pretty much like this tool because it tells me, it regularly update, I believe once a week, if there is any changes that needs to be done, and it's very color coded. Like you're able to see, you could change, but most of the time I don't really use any of the layers here. There is one cool layer. It's not one cool layer that you probably want to see because it's it might pique or curiosity. There's aerial images, and let me just pick something near LaGuardia or something like that. So you're able to go back in time and see what New York City used to look like 100 years ago. So there's a 1924 map, and I guess LaGuardia didn't even exist. It looks like a bunch of farmland back 100 years ago or something like that. But it's just for, it's like a gimmick type. The aerial image is just pretty gimmicky and all. Like you're able to see 1950, 1996. Okay, I guess LaGuardia finally existed. You can see land that didn't exist before. So let's see, 2001, this probably just started to appear, 1951. So what used to be land, it was a beach type area, but now it becomes units, property units here. And what pretty much what Dubai did on their properties, New York City did the same. But this is just a gimmick. Not many people really uses it. It's just for fun to see what it really looks like and all. It's not this tool is not just for zoning. If you're looking for particular properties, I'm going to pick one random person. Sorry about the privacy, but there's no privacy on this website apparently. I'm just gonna pick one random person here. So if I click here, it's gonna tell me who the owner is. So apparently the owner is Sandra Second. I I guess the last name is called Second. It's a one-family house. It's a city residence. Let's see. You can see the properties are all adjoined. If you click this, it will tell you when the person bought the property. This is mainly to use like, it's usually, most of the time it's used by real estate agents, but I guess now more and more people are understanding how to use this. More regular people, they're looking at this and they just want to find out the, well, how much did people pay for the property? Like, did they buy this 3 years ago and they want to flip it? They could basically see it on this website. I didn't have an example prepared here. I wish I did.
That's amazing.
Like you could even see their next door neighbor and how much did they buy it for. Oh, it looks like we have a recent person here, 2017, and they bought this property for $1.6 million. Their mortgage was $1.28 million from Wells Fargo. And yeah. And it looks like this person converted a one-family dwelling into a two-family house, converted from a one-family. So you could do that because the land use allow you to be able to convert a one-family into two-family. Because as long as you have that classification, you can convert it or convert back to a single family if you wish to. All you gotta do is just fill out the permit and stuff like that. Another tool beside stalking your neighbor and doing doing just stalking your neighbor is to find out whether there is building violations. So in New York City, before you buy a property and you try to get a mortgage from the bank needs to see whether the building has any violation on it. If there's too many violation on the building, the bank is more like they rather serve their own interests, so they don't want to see a lot of violations on the property where the owner has to later pay for those violations. The violation stays on the building until it's paid off. So, and it's usually it's passed downable. So if there's a boiler violation from 1998 and the current owner sells it to the new owner and they didn't solve it, it's just gonna get passed down until whoever wants to bother filling out the proper paperwork to clean the violation. So people go through this called BizWeb, building information. Oh, this person has one violation from the Department of Building. And it's still active on 2016. So we just saw this property. He just bought this property in 2017. So I guess Wells Fargo says no problem to this violation. You could click into it. It just says it's a landmark violation. I'm not very familiar with landmark violations, so it doesn't really have any description here. But you could also see complaints on here. So neighbors are able to anonymously complain about the building, and you're able to see what they're complaining about. It just says improper cement work to the front steps. So I
And
get
someone does not like that person.
I seen some crazy, some really stupid complaints, like you have your own driveway, but you park your commercial car in the driveway, and then you have some POS neighbor complaint to you saying you're not allowed to park your own commercial vehicle in your own driveway, and the building building violation guys, they will come over and give you a ticket. So it's pretty much a snitch, you know. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Just neighbors hating on neighbors. I think Don is asking, yeah, I'm an agent, but I'm gonna let my real estate license expires out in 3 months. So if you want a consultation, I'm kind of not gonna do it because I'm gonna quit this real estate job and after the license expires. That's pretty much about it. We'll just use some commercial examples. Passive aggressive. I guess we were using this. So it says the property has 2 apartments and 1 store. Each unit has its own gas boiler and water heater. So that's great. That tells us that there are 3 gas meter for this property. And usually electric are separated, so there are 3 gas and 3 electric meter. So this property is pretty good for the buyers. The one issue I have is the property is pretty small, and we could basically see it on this map. It says it's a 20 by 50, which is pretty small when you look at the next door neighbor and it's 20 by 75, or the house behind it is a 22 by 80. So you pretty much don't have like a backyard to, park your car. But since this is a investment property, it it really depends on you. Like, are you gonna live in this particular property, or are you going to uh do it as an investment? If it's just an investment, you're just gonna have to find tenants who don't have a car, since there's literally a train line that's going across, or there's literally a train that's in front of your property. I believe the train station's like around here, and yeah. Let's see, it says it's a 6% cap, which is not bad. 875K. So it doesn't really, usually these websites have like a offer memorandum where you just click into it and it's a PDF file or Excel sheet of what is the rent roll for that property, but this agent didn't post any. But that's fine because he sort of made a makeshift financial summary here. 55K, but then you also have mortgage on this property. If you're putting down 875K, you could probably put it down for 850,000, and then you have to put in a 20% down payment. You're taking out a 680K mortgage. Let's see. Before the bank gives you a mortgage, they also need to find out the current market value for this property. So we'll go back to that finance website that we were using. Oh, that's not great. That is not good. It says the market value for this property is only 500K. And the banks usually look at this particular PDF, this entire statement, because that's how they're going to determine what is the mortgage, the highest mortgage or equity you could get from this property. Since it's only 500K, mortgage are usually 50 to 60% of this amount market value. So the highest mortgage you're gonna get, you're able to take out to buy this property is 300K. And since we just saw that it costs 875K to buy it, you kind of have to cough up the rest of the money if you want.
That's some good investigating skills there. That's amazing.
Yeah, you kind of have to do a lot of investigating work if you don't have like a agent to help you out to deal with this sort of thing. But sometimes even the most knowledgeable agent, they will usually refer you to a mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker would pretty much tell you the same thing that I'm saying. I was looking at this property, but it's a 7% cap, but right now it's completely vacant, which is sort of a bad thing during a COVID, because right now, pre-COVID, it was easy to find commercial tenants and like residential tenants for income. But during COVID, like I see more commercial lease up for grab than I see actual commercial tenants moving in. And well, it's better now. It's kind of not so great. It's usually best to find properties that have commercial tenants already moved in and they have a lock-in lease, so they can't run away. Residential tenants, they could pretty much stop paying you and they could just say, oh, COVID is here, we can't pay our rent. And it's too political. It's like they have this more eviction moratorium where you can't kick out the tenants at all. Usually I think I almost covered everything so far. Am I going a little bit too fast?
No, I think you're doing a great job.
Okay, I will try to find a decent property. 4% is not that great either. And it's $3 million, so it's a little bit overpriced. Usually I try to find a commercial property on the first floor and residential up to 3-family. If you go over 3-family and it becomes a 4-family unit, you're expected to pay more taxes. And
Take a look at that one.
huh? I think that's just a retail building. I was looking at that earlier, last week or so, but it's not the actual, like you don't own I think you don't actually own the building itself. You only own like the lease.
Like the storefront.
like a storefront lease type.
Oh
And
yeah,
there's,
it says right there, business for sale.
yeah. Oh, last month there was a lot of 6%, 7%. Now all I see is 3%. There, we just saw that 7%.
Do you always look for properties with at least commercial and residential?
Yes, because the commercial income is usually 65% of your NOI. If you looked for a residential income, like purely residential income, it's like if you buy it for 1.4, a residential income, and you also bought a commercial that's also 1.4, the commercial income will elevate what the residential income will produce, which will give you a higher cap ratio. I think most of them are all sold out. I believe I saw this already. But it's it's a mixed used. Oh, so it's double building here. Is it? Let's double check with the map. Oh crap. That's expensive. And here I thought it was both building, but it's not. It's only one building. Oh, that's way too expensive. Who is this guy? It's the sale of two mixed property, and this package is comprised of two building. So it is two building with 6 free market rent and 2 retail stores. Let's
Oh
see.
damn, it includes a lot in the back too. Number 22.
There's no way unless it says it in the
Quick guys, start buying it.
K and M retail. No, it's a different person. This is called both of these building lot is owned by Alan, but the guy in the behind doesn't make sense unless the person is also owner of this. Usually if you want to find out the actual owner, you use the OpenGov NYC. There we go. I don't think so. This is the same person at all. I highly doubt. Well, it does look like the person does own it based on the picture here, since they have a garage in the back. But where does where does it lead out though? That's the problem. Maybe here it leads out. Leads out from here, and that's the driveway out. You could also look. You could also right click and measure the distance of the property. This one says it's about 60 feet by 20 feet.
I never knew you could do that on Google Maps.
Yeah. 60 feet by 20 feet is not bad. It's 3 floors. That's 1,200 feet per floor. You're paying 3.1 mil, but 630. No, wait, that's the wrong one. That's actually pretty good. $388 per square feet. Usually buyers are looking for under $500 per square feet. If you're paying more than 500, don't bother. It's gonna take a long time to get your money back. But the golden ratio is the building size needs to be 20 feet wide and the depth must be 50 feet deep, or about, as long as each floor is about a thousand square feet and you have 2 or 3 floors, and as long as the square footage is less than $500 per square feet, then you're getting a decent deal. But lower is better. 388. Now as I'm looking at it, I might buy it.
As soon as you buy it, do you renovate it and then refinance it?
Depends if the interior is pretty bad. If there needs to be renovation, I'll probably put in 200,000 to renovate. But I see here most of them are free market rent. Free market rent. Oh, so he does own the parking lot in the back. Actually, this is, if I'm able to use the parking lot in the back as additional square footage, I could essentially build out a unit out of this. Okay, guess I'm gonna save this now. Probably knock it down and build something out of it. This is a R6A zoning. R6A zoning, I could build a maximum height of 80 feet tall. I believe so, R6A. But the back is a R3X. Yep, R6A zoning, I could build condos unit basically. R6A is better than R6B because it's a better FAR ratio. I guess I'll start talking about developer since I have a developer, like a potential developer here. For developer, it's usually you prefer to buy land, the land itself, for $100 square feet or less, because later on you have to factor in the construction cost, and construction costs are usually 2.5 to 3x the land cost. So you'll be adding $300 on top of the $100 that you just paid for. So after you build out your condo, it's about $400 per square foot that the money that you already put in. It also depends on the area. Jamaica is, or Richmond Hill, so to speak. Richmond Hill is about, condos around Richmond Hill is around $750 per square feet to $800 per square feet. And you also have to factor in, you have to pay the realtor if you are hiring a realtor agency to help you market the condo units. So your take home pay on this, if you factor in everything, is about $200 per square footage. And to find out the square footage, like the maximum you could build out, you have to factor in the FAR for both C24. A C24 zoning, since it's a commercial FAR within a R6, all district of a commercial FAR is 2.0. I'm just reading the comments.
What's the FAR stand for?
FAR is a floor area ratio. You basically take the lot size of your entire property and you multiply it by the FAR. So if you have a 10,000 square foot lot and your FAR is 2, you could build a building that has 20,000 square foot.
Damn, that's amazing.
So but since there are 2 zonings on this property, there's a commercial zoning and there's a residential zoning. I believe R6A residential is a 3.0. Let me just double check real quick. R6A is a 3.0 to 3.6. And you have the commercial on top. So that's between 5 to 5.6. I'm just going to use 5 for simplicity. This lot size is 40 plus 2250 plus. We can't really account for this lot in the back. The lot in the back is a separate zoning. It's a 524. This is a R3X, but I think you're able to rezone it if you have the proper connection with the planning board, if you could. But the FAR is pretty bad in the back. If you're able to get the planning board, you have 8,500 square foot in the back, plus the 3,400 square foot in the front. Let's just add that up. So you have roughly 12,000 square foot from these 3 separate lots. 12,000 times 5 equals 60,000 square feet. So you could build 60,000 square feet. You could build about 80 units, 80 to 95 condo units if you split them up into 500 square feet. But like I said, I am not an architect. Usually I have to ask my architect to do all this math for me. This is just a preliminary preliminary discussion among among this group chat we're having here.
I mean, holy shit, that's amazing. 60,000 by like, you know, if let's say 650 square feet, that's like $40 million.
Yeah,
And you're cheap, bro. 500 square foot. I'd at least do like 800.
no, but you also have to know the market in that particular area. So this
True.
is Jamaica-ish. Jamaica is like I have to put in condos. So this is where I use Zillow to find out what's the average. Oh, this is not a condo. I was looking at the condos here. I think condos here are $850 per square foot. It really depends on the area. Like if you are towards the more popular area, the sale, the square footage is usually $1,000 to $1,100 per square feet. But if you're in like a not so developed area, it's usually between $750 to $800 per square feet. Unless you really do have a lot of amenity to justify your insane square footage price. There's one other thing, but then since New York City already discontinued the program, it's called the 421A-15. It's a tax abatement for developers. They are usually 15 years or 20 or 25 years, depend on certain factors like whether you are doing whether you are giving a small portion, like 20% of the total unit that you have for sale as what's that called? Rent stabilized market. But since right now, the 421A program, before it's a 15-year tax abatement where you pay like insanely cheap taxes. Like I think there are some still available. The taxes can be as low as $200 per year, not month, per year for 15 years. That's how much property tax are for condos. And those condos are usually priced. They already priced in the savings that you could have, if you had a higher property tax or something like that. But since I believe it's 2019, they stopped this program. So there's no more 15-year program. There's still some condos who got the special tax abatement program, but now it's it's no longer available unless you are building a property that's rent only. It's not a condo building, it's a rental building, and you're putting 30% of the market into 30% of the total rental units that you have for people with low income or Section 8 or, like the projects. The people who lives in the projects, they could afford to live in these rent stabilized units. Oh, looks like we have someone who is more knowledgeable on the architectural side. He says 60,000 square feet, 20% is given to the common area. So you really have 48,000 to work with. Studios are not 650 square feet. Studios in New York City are usually 450 to 500 square feet. And a one bedroom, like new condos that are being built right now, one bedrooms are usually between 500 to 600, and two bedrooms and one bathroom, or two bedroom, two bathroom, they're usually around 750 to 800. So you're able to squeeze in more units because that's how the current developer market, they're kind of cheap now. So right now studios are running about 450 square feet.
And so is your goal to just like buy, rent out, and like hold on to these properties?
I'm sort of getting tired of even though
trading?
I even though I don't take care of the day-to-day anymore for tenants, I rather prefer to buy land, develop it, and just sell the entire building or sell units within it. But that's it as pretty much my goal. I mean, for the starter people, you could start with residential and then you later move on to commercial and residential. And yeah, you could pretty much slowly build your empire through rental income. Like you could live off the income if you are smart with the money. Um, I think that's it. I hope I covered everything. I'm trying to remember what am I forgetting to add into this conversation.
I had one big question. So, let's say you're trying to sell a property. How does it get valued? Like, I always wondered how. Like, I know like it's probably based on like the area, what similar houses go around in that neighborhood, maybe any additions and stuff like that. But um, is there a way you can quickly guide us on, let's say, random property, what you would kind of look as a valuation for it?
Valuations, for agents, we usually do comps, but since usually we go through the actual sold price in the area. But the thing is that for New York City, a lot of the prices is sort of manipulated, where it gets sold for this amount of money, but they actually do money under the table. So right now it's pretty difficult to find out the actual cost or actual value for the property that you're looking for because of this under the table type deal. Because here in New York City, you have a mansion tax and you have to pay 1% of the entire value. So between anything that's over 1 million, it's 1%. And then anything that's over 2 million, I believe it's 1.2%, I think.
A
So
year?
no, it's like when you buy the property,
Okay.
the person who's paying the mansion tax is the buyer, and the buyers don't want to pay the mansion tax. So they usually, like on the official record, it usually says
900.
990K, but in actuality, they are paying 990K, but then under the table, they're giving like bags of cash or so to speak, bag of cash under the table for 200, 300K, just to avoid paying the tax involved with it. Uh, but
Damn.
but that's the thing where the only thing that's official is the official record. But since the official record is sort of messed up, it's it's sort of hard to determine the actual property unless you have the decent people who actually say what they're actually paying for instead of doing this type of shady things. I think recently I did a comp for one particular person. I believe it's around this area. And usually I just find properties like what you just said, property that had been sold recently, and I match it. I have to compare it with the subject property. So if the subject property says I'm just gonna throw, it's a 20 by 100 lot, and it's a detached home, meaning it's not like, attached like townhouses and stuff. And it's a detached home, so that's a plus already, plus factor because you kind of don't want to hear your neighbor across the wall, like them doing like talking, because walls in New York City is kind of thin, but that's only for condos, newer condos. But usually the location is important. The transportation is important. Uh, whether it's near supermarkets, like within walking distance. But I gave this particular owner a comp of between 950,000 to 1,050,000, because in the general vicinity, like similar homes like his got sold around that price.
Okay, that makes sense.
These are all new condos. I gotta reset this. And you're able to see, well, for Zillow, you're able to see what's sold in the last 6 months to a year or even longer. So you have the general idea of what's being sold. I like these. Wow. There is, I think these are all new construction that just got sold. 2021. So it just got sold last month. So for 1.2 million. But those are new construction. So if you're comparing it to a house that's built in the 1950s, it's really hard to justify the bump in price.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'll open it up for a Q&A session. I'm just going to scroll up and quickly find some questions here. And guys, if you have any questions, just jot it down on the chat. So I got a question. Because of work from home, has commercial properties dropped in value? Okay. Probably a yes, right?
What was the question?
So because of work from home, has commercial properties dropped in value?
I know in Manhattan, the office buildings around Midtown, some owners are converting them into condos because of the lack of commercial tenants. So I think not, I think Citigroup, no, not Citigroup, like somewhere around Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, there was a one condo building that was like 50 floor high, and the commercial tenant that occupies floor 30 to 50, they haven't like paid rent. So the owner of that particular building kicked that commercial tenant out, and they already started to renovate floor 30 to 50 and became condo units to be sold to the public. That's sort of the idea that's going on in Midtown Manhattan.
Do you only buy properties in NYC?
Is is the only place that I know of. But I think New Jersey might be a good start if I just need to learn the market. Learn the market to if it's any difference compared to New York City. But I don't think so. It's much change. I just probably need to know read up on the New Jersey real estate laws.
All right. And as for the links, guys, so I will post it, or I can post it on the Discord channel, and I'll also add it to the description
Yeah,
for this video.
I'll be adding the links, all the links.
We have a question here from El Presidente. Would you recommend any reading resources, either online, on print, to get familiar with this?
Huh. The thing is, I didn't really learn it from any reading resources. I learned it under my real estate boss, who is also a developer, and he has a lot of properties scattered across the entire New York City borough. He also has property in Buffalo and Catskills area. So it's mainly, you just have to find the right mentorship to help to pretty much guide you into what property you want to get.
Because,
Hmm?
sorry, go ahead.
So um like he always says, if you want to buy land to build something out of it, always aim for $100 per square feet. So that type of like simple idea, just it latches onto you. Like you can't forget that particular number. So every time I look for deals, I usually factor in what he taught me and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was the second part of that question. Those little tricks to be aware of. Um, so those are pretty much from your boss, right?
Yeah, you just have to find the right mentorship to guide you through this, to take advantage of the real estate market.
And so, are you more concerned about investing in New York City in the long term, since there's a high migration of businesses out of the city? For example, Carl Icahn. There's actually like over 20 funds that are looking to move out of the city thanks to
Yeah,
the increased taxes.
they're all moving to Florida, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, too much taxes, and Florida no state tax.
Uh,
I think
there's
they're threatening to too. Like there's a few that are like, okay, we're gonna move, but remember, I think the last time they tried to do this back in the '60s, it kind of failed, right?
no, that's more towards like you said, Carl, like those hedge fund, they're mainly based in Manhattan. Like I only have one property in Manhattan, but it's a hotel chain, so it's not really for now, it's not really a concern for me because I am not invested in Manhattan because Manhattan's too bloody expensive for me. Even for me, it's too expensive. I mainly just focus on Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn. Staten Island might be the next big pop for New York City because it's the most like it's a running joke for New Yorker that Staten Island don't exist. Staten Island's is just part of New Jersey. It doesn't exist part of the five borough. That's kind of the New York joke. But Staten Island, it might be the next big real estate pop because the taxes there are insanely cheap. Like I don't think so. The but because the property tax are insanely cheap, it's going to be harder to get mortgages there because the low property value. And like we discussed that banks are only willing to lend up to 50% of the current market value for property. So I think Staten Island is like more for cash buyers only. Yep, definitely SY. People always forget it's a New York City borough.
Yeah, I found that strange because in Toronto, well, in Canada, I think, we get a mortgage pre-approval. That's how much you can afford, and then, they like we do look at, um, I guess the actual value on your taxes, but I don't think it's like a there's like a set number where it's like, okay, we can only like the banks can only finance like 50% of whatever the actual value down on like the city of Toronto property tax value actually indicates. Because I think here, I mean, everything is just way too overpriced.
I did some mortgages, and all the mortgage broker is always asking what is the current market value. So I'm pretty much basing that personal experience on this lesson. It's usually
Okay.
50 to 60% of the market value determined by the New York City government.
And when looking for deals, I guess, let's say you have a high cap rate, but it's, overvalued based on like the market value. Would you still go through with the deal?
That's why I look for the like how much is the price per square footage.
Okay.
Like it's $500 under. It's what I prefer.
It
Um,
makes sense.
there's also one. It's very minor detail. The building width is kind of important when you are looking for these type of deals, because you have to also imagine, are you going to live there? Do you want to live in a 16 feet wide house, or do you want to live in a 20 feet wide house? Like that's a huge jump. Uh, or do you prefer 20 feet wide house? Like the width of the house and the length of the building is pretty important when you want to find properties for yourself or for as an investment, because the tenants who are moving in, they're gonna also, in their head, they're gonna be like, can I fit my couch in this 16 feet wide living room? Or like when it gets divided up, 8 feet wide living room, like they're gonna say no. Like how are they gonna put their L-shaped couch, or how they're gonna mount their TV, stuff like that. Like you also have to put your shoes in a tenant type of way. So like, can you make this property investable? Can this 16 feet wide home be investable for you? Or do you prefer to pay a little bit extra to get a 20-foot wide house, Um,
And so, yeah, this is a question I'm wondering too. Does these sites and tools, do you know if they can be used for like different states? If like every state has this kind of tool?
that you kind of have to search for yourself. I only know, well, because I'm based here in New York City, so I only know tools that New York City has, that like it's it's insane of how much mapping tools they have here. Uh,
Yeah,
like
that is
you could
crazy.
click into the New York City, and they'll have open data, and then it's housing, neighborhood. Like it's a lot to take in. They even have zoning for coastal flood. So if you are buying a house that's near coastal, do you need to pay insurance, flood insurance for that particular property? So they pretty much made this pretty real estate friendly. in like they have a lot of data being comprised in one center website.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You guys know how much I love data. And you know what? This is a good question from SY, and pretty much asking you to talk a little bit about how you started investing in, NYC real estate, especially with prices so high.
Huh. Well, I started out because my family, they were lucky. They got a 3-family house for well, this is 25 years ago. So the price is, I think it was kind of high at that time because of the dot-com bubble and stuff like that. But they bought a 3-family house for $395,000, and they bought it at an auction. So, oh yeah, I forgot to touch on the auction part. Real estate auction is it's it's what's that word called? Uh, Not a death trap. Cutthroat. Real estate auction is a cutthroat market. Um, but I just been pretty fascinated on, like, you know, it's almost like a story out of, like, I think Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like, you buy one property, and then 5 years later you buy the second property, and then so on and so forth, expanding on that. So I guess it's just the family is just rubbing on me, because they bought properties, and then now I'm just buying properties as well, and trying to, now I see what they are seeing from their point of view. If that answered the question, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And what's your opinion on industrial properties?
Warehouses, I wish I knew more, because I could have sold the property that Amazon was looking for, because I was staring, like, before Amazon bought that warehouse property. I already knew about, like, everybody knew about this particular 1 million square foot warehouse that was just sitting there waiting for someone to get it. But, Amazon, you sneaky bastard.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you mentioned that to me before.
I think you could see Amazon. Think let me turn on the Amazon is located. Crap, I have to look for it. Shite. I'll find it later. Or maybe, I think it's here. No, it's not here. Maybe it's here. Somewhere around here. But anyway, Amazon they were going to move in, so
Yeah, I
I
think I saw it. It said Amazon Fresh Market.
was it on, I think it was on Grant. Oh, here, this is the prop. Oh, this is the property that Amazon took over. Shit. 5515 Grand Avenue. Where's my website? Yep, Amazon got a nice chunk of land. And
Yeah.
I think they are building they are converting, they're knocking down this warehouse, and they are building 3 basement level and 4 upper level. So total 7 floors of warehouse space to pretty much take over New York City or become a huge major hub.
Yeah,
I,
384,000 square foot. That's crazy.
but it's also 7 floors deep too. Oh wow, they bought it for pretty cheap too. What the hell? They bought it for $72 million. That is pretty cheap. Can I see Jeff Bezos' signature on this thing too? I'm pretty sure you can find Jeff Bezos' signature on these deed documents. Whatever. It's just just for fun to look at these public document, but at the same time, there's privacy issue.
Oh, it's all good. Honestly, Soya, you just spent 2 hours teaching an amazing lesson. So appreciate it, buddy. And yeah, I think that is all for today. If you guys have any more questions, Soya's always on our chat room. So you can always ask. Have you ever actually last question? Do you ever buy those foreclosure ones? I'm assuming it goes into like an auction.
It goes through the auction website, but foreclosures, I have attended one foreclosure. It was more like it was held at the US courthouse, and well, like you have to have, like they would have certain properties on like they'll go through exhibit 1, exhibit 2, etc., and you're supposed to bring a 10% certified check of the max amount that you're willing to pay. So if your budget is 1.5 million, then you bring a certified bank check of 150K, because that's 10%. And foreclosure, I like I said, I've been to one, and there was one property that I was interested in, but I got outbid. I got outbid by like it was crazy. Like the property, it was a good property where you could build a 6-family house, and at that time it was like a 2-family detached home, and yeah, I was outbid by at least 200,000.
Yeah, I had the same experience with used car. They had that dealership. Same thing. It's like a mafia in there at those auctions. It's like, if one of the bigger guys with bigger dealers bid, the other bigger dealers don't bid. And then when a small guy like me tries to bid for it, those bigger dealers will just outbid me all the time.
Mm. And they get pretty cocky. They'll start like adding $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, but then the auctioneer guy is catch on onto that $1,000 add-on bid. So they said the minimum add-on is $10,000 or something like that, because that's just shady as hell, adding
Yeah.
extra 1K.
Well, thank you so much, Soya. We're
Yeah.
gonna conclude this lesson. So thank you guys for attending. Hope you guys learned a lot. I know I did. And see you guys on the trading floor.
See you later.